Hey bookworms! I hope you all are having a good start to your spring, and I hope you've had a chance to start reading the new Secret Garden. I hope you love it. I thought that would be a really fun one to start off the spring with. So today, for our Weekly Whimsy, we are going to do our Snowdrops, which are supposed to be one of the first flowers that pop up in the spring. They even pop up through the snow sometimes, so I thought this would be a perfect one to do as our second little Weekly Whimsy, just to celebrate the spring. And I am doing something a little bit different. So I already traced on my tracer, and then I am doing more of like a sketch. So you can see I'm just doing like these little rough lines. So I'm going to do more of like a sketch motion with this instead of like the pretty clean lines, just to change up the style a little bit. I thought that would be pretty. And then I know I've been a little quiet in the group the last couple weeks, and it is because I had such an amazing opportunity. My family and I, just a couple days ago, got back from England, the UK. It was amazing. My kids and my husband and I all got to go to, flew into London, and then we stayed a couple weeks in Wales, and we were gone a total of like 3 weeks. So I have been very busy, and I have lots of fun things to pictures and stuff I'm going to be putting on my regular Facebook page, so you guys can see some of the cool literary things that I got to see. I didn't travel around a whole lot because I was actually there for my husband's work. But we did definitely see some really, really, really amazing things. And I never expected I would get to travel to England. So it was just like such a once in a lifetime like opportunity. At least it felt like it. It was very surreal. So I know a lot of you guys would appreciate the whole literary experience of being in England, because so much of our great like classic books have come from England. So it was just such an amazing thing to do and see. And it felt like you were in a little storybook. So we stayed in this village town called Wells, which is Wells, which is about 30 minutes from Bath, if you know where that area is. That's a little bit more of a more famous city. It is about an hour, I guess, away from the border of Wales, and in the southwest part of England, and about a little more than 2 hours away from London. So we flew into London, and then we stayed in Wales, like I said, for a couple weeks. That's where my husband was working. And me and the kids, everything was within a 10-minute walk. So me and the kids were able to like walk around and see so many amazing things. And the coolest part was, one of the coolest, there's so many, was that England had like this amazing weather that first whole week we were there. All right, so let me pull this up so you guys can see. We did like, see how it's like a rough sketch, and now I'm going to take my eraser and erase the pencil marks. While we were there, we had insanely beautiful weather. Like here in Ohio, when I left, they were still having like snow and wind and like tornadoes, and then it would get really warm and then get cold again. But we had this beautiful like sunny weather, so I'm excited to show you guys some of those pictures. I will definitely be posting some of those in my group online, on my, or not my group, but my page online. Definitely felt like I was in a storybook, so it was just so amazing. But I know a lot of you guys could appreciate the literary value of what we saw. So, and then we stayed in Wales, like I said, for a couple weeks. Had beautiful weather. Has England's oldest Gothic cathedral in that town, which was probably the most breathtaking thing we saw while we were there, was that cathedral. And then we went, after my husband was done working, we went east back towards London, but we stayed in Bath on the way there for a couple nights. And Bath is where Mary Shelley lived for a time, and where she wrote Frankenstein, and also where Jane Austen lived. So we went through the Mary Shelley museum, and I went into the shop at the Jane Austen, but did not do the museum because we were already museumed and like walked out by that point. So it was just a whole lot to do in such a short amount of time. So we had to pick and choose what we could do and get to see. But yeah, I'm excited to show you guys some of that stuff. It was really beautiful. Alright, so I'm just putting a little more lines in here. And I like the sketch look. I think this was sort of cool, different look to what we normally, or at least what I normally do. Okay. And then I've got my watercolor. So we took my kids and I, we always take our watercolors with us when we travel. And we got to sit on the green in front of the cathedral and paint one day in the sun. It was so nice. But my watercolor palette took a beating in the travel. It's all bent up now. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's a well-traveled palette. Okay, so the snowdrops are white flowers. So I'm going to use a little bit of my, let me see if I can see this in the, let me pull this down here. Let's pull it this way so you guys can see what colors I'm grabbing. So I'm going to use a little bit of my white, which is sort of dingy. That's okay. And I'll give it some depth here. So I'm going to use, all right, very cool. And then my green. So I've got sort of like an army green I'm using here. I like the sketch look with the watercolor, that's cool. And then I'm going to go in with this dark green here. Add some extra depth here and there. Got a little green there, so I'm going to clean that up. Just dilute it so much that you can't see it. That's the idea. Alright, I already really like that. I'm going to use, I think, a little of this orange here. You'll probably hear my dog barking. We just had somebody pull up for a delivery because we have deliveries all the time here. Alright, so this really pretty orange. I like it with the green. So I'm going to go right around the flower. I'm just going to hit certain spots, especially like in the crevices of the flower, and then I'm going to dilute it out with some water. Alright, so now I'm going to rinse some of that, I'm just taking some of that color off my paintbrush there, and then I'm going to pull that I am so thankful for warm weather. It's been nice since we've gotten back in the States the last couple of days. When we left, it was so cold. It was a long time to be away from home, though. I've never been anywhere for 3 weeks. It was wild. I will say the English are not good. They don't have good food. It was very disappointing. Food was not my favorite. I sort of expected to like it more than I did, because I'm a foodie person. My whole family, my kids are, we all love food. We love trying new stuff. My kids are both pretty young, and they always like trying new things. And it wasn't great. It was sort of disappointing. But the experience and the architecture and the history and all the stone buildings and cathedrals and abbeys. And we saw the baths, which is what Bath is named for. I don't know how much you know about that area, but so the Roman baths are in Bath, and they are still standing, and the water's still bubbling and still hot and coming up from underground, where the Romans back in like the 1st century, or no, before that even, yeah, like BC actually. I got my times mixed up. Where they were bathing, and it was a like a temple to the goddess Minerva, who was like the hot springs goddess, and that's what was there. And it was just pretty crazy, because we've traveled. My kids are very big history nerds, and so are my husband and I, hence why I like the classics and the historic part of the classics. And it was just wild to see something as old as the things that we did, as old as they were, because here in the United States we just don't have structures anywhere near that old. So it was just something I don't know, I loved it. It was so cool. And to see some of the places are like people, before Christ were on the earth. It was pretty crazy. Where where people were before Christ even walked the earth. It was like the Roman baths, I mean. And then the Gothic cathedral, the one we saw in Wells, that we saw every day. It was just so beautiful. That had over 30 some sculptures just on the face of the cathedral. If you get a chance to look the art, so Wells Cathedral, if you have a chance to look that up, the art, like the sculptural pieces on the front of that, if you love sculpture or Gothic art in any way, it's said to be one of the they believe has the most Gothic art on it, on the front of it, of any other cathedral in the world. They believe. They don't, I guess they haven't made sure of that. I don't know. It was a weird way they stated it. So but it was pretty amazing, and it's crazy that think that existed in this little tiny sleepy English village. So all right, I like that. So we just took some white flowers, but that's a lot of color right there, and it looks so springy. And I like the sketchy look. I think that's a fun change up. All right, so the snowdrops, welcoming spring. All right, guys, I hope you weren't tired of hearing about England, because I'm going to be posting some about it and some cool pictures. And I'm sure I'll talk about it more, because it was pretty amazing, and I feel like it just goes right along with our classic books that we read. So, all right, let me know if anybody has ever been over there to Europe. I would love to know if any of you have ever had a cool experience like that. Or I would also love to hear about any of your favorite historic places you visited, because that's something that we love doing. So, all right, I am excited to see your all's weekly whimsy. See you soon. Bye.